And what we forgot, what the ranking member didn't mention, is in the aftermath of the Dobbs leak and the Dobbs decision that spring and summer, 103 churches and crisis pregnancy centers were attacked. She used the term extremist for the pro-life people. Look, we're against all violence. I agree with that statement. But that was not in any way an accurate picture of what took place in that summer and, frankly, the disparity in who's prosecuted under the FACE Act. Here's the bottom line. Government has been weaponized against we the people. September 23rd, 2022, Mark Houck at home in Pennsylvania. 10 unmarked cars pull up to his house at 6:30 a.m. and arrest him in front of his wife and 7 kids. What'd they arrest him for? Praying in front of an abortion clinic and protecting his son from some crazy person screaming swear words in his child's face. In fact, he was prosecuted, went to court, and the jury of his peers found him not guilty. 12 days after he's arrested, our witness, Mr. Vaughn, at home in Pennsylvania, and arrested in front of his wife and 11 children. And what was he doing? Exactly what the chairman said, praying and singing hymns outside of an abortion clinic. Just came and got him. March 5th, 2024, in Mr. Big State, Penny McCarthy, 66-year-old grandmother, in her driveway, U.S. Marshals pull up, guns drawn, and arrest her. They said she violated parole, a parole violation for a nonviolent offense from 25 years earlier. And they show up with guns drawn and arrest this lady. She said, I think you got the wrong person. And guess what? She was right. They had the wrong person. And of course, we had a hearing on this right here in this room. Brian Malinowski, top official, highest paid official in the municipal government in Little Rock, Arkansas. Gun hobbyist, sold 6 guns, and the ATF said, you're a felon because you sold 6 guns without a license. And they show up, again, 10 cars, show up at 6:01 a.m. First thing you see, because we got the video, the first thing they do is walk up and put tape on the doorbell cam. 53 seconds after they put tape on the doorbell cam, Brian Malinowski is shot and later dies. And they weren't even, this wasn't even an arrest warrant, this was a search warrant. They've been surveilling this guy for 2 weeks. They were gonna go the week before, but found out he wasn't home, so they waited for him to be home. I mean, you can't make any sense of what they did. Government has certainly been weaponized against we the people. And of course, last week, what did we find out last week? 2 Inspector General reports came out last week. The first one said, when Chris Wray first started at the FBI, they spied on Capitol Hill staffers. And here's the amazing thing. One of the guys they spied on is the guy who's going to replace Chris Wray. They spied on Kash Patel. Got the email, who you're emailing to, emails coming into you, phone calls. Did that to, and it was Democrats too. Democrats should be just as outraged. They were spying on Republican and Democrat staffers. And of course, the second report that came out last week from the Inspector General, we find out that there were 26 confidential human sources here in the Capitol, at the Capitol. Well, some of them came in the Capitol. 26 of them on January 6th. 17 went in the restricted area, 4 went in the Capitol, 0 were arrested. And remember, confidential human source is a fancy name for spy. Spying on Americans that day. And we also know they spied on parents, right? Spied on moms and dad going to school board meetings. We know that. They set up a snitch line. You could report on parents. One of the FBI whistleblowers that came and testified in front of this committee, this Congress, told us he was sent to go get license plates from parents in the parking lot when they're at a school board meeting. Our government doing that. And of course, all this makes me wonder, are they spying? Might they be spying on pro-life activists? Other Americans who are concerned about the sanctity of human life, might they be doing that? Well, guess what? They tried that too. They tried that too, because we got the memorandum from the Richmond field office earlier this Congress. Page 4 of this memo says we now have new opportunities to mitigate violent extremism threat through outreach to traditional Catholic parishes and the development of sources with the placement and access to report on places of worship. Now that's fancy FBI speak for we're going to put spies in the parish, spies in the church in America. And look, all this stuff happened. So thank the good Lord, we had a change in this administration back on November 5th. I want to thank the chairman for his tireless work on advocating for the sanctity of life and looking at this law. I want to thank Ms. Hawley, Mr. Vaughn, for what you've been through, both of you for coming and testifying, and Mr. Crampton for your good work at the Thomas More Society and for you being with us today. Protecting the sanctity of life is critically important, and just as important is the First Amendment. Your right to speak, your right to pray, all the rights we enjoy under the First Amendment. And that's why this committee, which is charged with protecting the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and those important freedoms we have as Americans, is so darn important. I thank the chairman for all his good work and yield back. I was hoping for 5 minutes of questions.
Sir?
Imagine that. No, I appreciate it. Mr. Vaughn, so the day that you were at you were praying and singing at the clinic, did the local police show up?
They did.
And were they called by the clinic?
They were.
Okay, so I want to get all the facts straight. And maybe you did this in your opening statement. I apologize. I had to step out a couple times here during the hearing. So you're at in front of an abortion clinic. You're praying and singing. You were on the public sidewalk.
It was inside. It was a multi-use building. We were in the hallway of a public building.
Okay.
Outside the doors of the abortion clinic.
And there were other people with you?
Correct.
Yeah. And you were charged with conspiring to stop people from going into the clinic and their rights, as Mr. Crampton was just talking about.
Correct, yes.
Now, what did you do? Did you physically push anyone, hold anyone back? Did you lock arms with your co-conspirators, or what'd you do?
No, I did none of that.
None of that.
I kneeled and prayed on the side of the hallway at one point and sang hymns when they were singing. I interacted with the police department. The local police got a little agitated at one point, and they came and shoved a couple people. I walked back down the hallway with them and tried to ensure them these people were peaceful and keep peace, with the police department, and ultimately talked with the negotiator and the police chief, along with another member, and led to a peaceful resolution. People that wanted to be...
No one was arrested that day?
There were 8 people arrested.
Were you arrested that day?
I was not.
You were not arrested that day? Okay. And what day was that? What day were you there at the clinic praying?
That was March 5th.
March 5th of what year?
22. I'm sorry, of 21.
21.
Correct, yes.
Because it's a year later, it just happens to be March 5th again, right?
It's October 5th of 22.
October 5th, excuse me.
Yes.
So a year later, that's right, October 5th. So almost a year later is when the federal police show up, the FBI shows up at your house.
Correct, yes.
Okay, in the interim, in that 11-month time frame, what kind of contact did you have with any law enforcement or any prosecutor or anything like that?
None.
None?
None whatsoever.
So you weren't arrested that day and other people were. You didn't do anything wrong that day. In fact, when there was some concern, you tried to de-escalate it.
Correct.
And nothing happens. Local police said that this Mr. Vaughn guy, he's doing the Lord's work, whatever they said. They didn't do anything. But then 10 months later, the FBI shows up at your door.
That's 18 months later, correct. They showed up hard and heavy. So that day, the police in their media press release that evening complimented how peaceful and orderly we were, how we interacted with them. And the lead the lead negotiator testified for us at federal trial. So
Local police.
We had good relations with the police. And it's been pointed out, if I can, I'd love to read just a quick
Do you know
statement.
if the FBI talked to the local police prior to coming to your house and arresting you?
They did not. I asked them that question on the hour-long ride to Nashville in the back of the car. I asked, did my sheriff know or anybody know? I said, no, we didn't bother telling them.
They just showed up.
They showed up.
And if I remember the facts again, it was early morning, show up,
7:15 in the morning.
kick in the door, you and your wife and children right there, and
Correct,
had
yep.
some of your kids that held off on a different part of the
Correct.
property. Okay. Where was the conspiracy? What were you conspiring to do? Because I don't see the I'm troubled as the legal professionals here, Mrs. Hawley and Mr. Crampton have pointed out, I'm troubled by this whole conspiracy thing, but I don't see any conspiracy on your part.
No, the conspiracy was I ideologically agreed that abortion should stop. And I was in the hallway with other people that did that.
Were there like emails at the trial where you said, hey, we're all going to meet at the clinic on this day? Is that how they demonstrated some conspiracy?
There was no evidence like that presented as to me. The only thing they showed in that piece of the trial was my driver's license that indicated that I lived an hour from the clinic and drove an hour. So that was the tie to the conspiracy.
And if the FBI called you and said, Mr. Vaughn, we're going to charge you with this crime. Can you show up and meet us at the local FBI office or whatever, Nashville, I think you said, you'd have got legal counsel, you'd have got Mr. Crampton, but you'd have showed up whatever day they told you, right?
Sure, absolutely.
But instead, they came to your house. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. Mr. Crampton, what is, are traditional Catholics radical?
Only in the eyes of extremists of the Biden administration.
Yeah, only in the eyes of the people who show up at 6 in the morning and arrest a guy when the local police, we're wanting to give him a medal. Only they are the people who are going to say that if you're a traditional Catholic, you're an extremist. You're a radical.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah. Ms. Hawley, I got 32 seconds. I feel bad, but I'll give you the last 30 seconds. Anything you want to add to the discussion?
Thank you, Congressman Jordan. One thing I would like to mention is that the FACE Act is on top of state and local law. So as members of Congress have recognized before, this would not allow criminal conduct to go unpunished. Every state has trespass laws, has nuisance laws, has those sorts of things that are perfectly capable.
And we saw it in the example.
Exactly, and similarly with
They arrested. Did any of the 8 people that the local police arrested, Mr. Vaughn, did any of them get charged by the FBI? How many of them? All of them?
All of them.
All of them. Okay, but
They got double charged. They got local
double
charges
charged.
and federal.
They obviously did something wrong. You did it.
And similarly, with Mr. Hook, who I know has testified to this committee, the state and local prosecutors declined to prosecute. They made a federal case out of it, was acquitted by a jury of his peers, and an Obama appointee judge noted that this was stretching the FACE Act a little thin.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you. Thank all of our witnesses, and I want to thank the chairman for his good work on dealing with this piece of legislation.